In the history of human warfare, warriors have adorned themselves in effigies of their gods and protector spirits, of fierce beasts and mythical animals, of demons and angels, and bygone heroes of legend. They consecrate their weapons, naming their blade and vowing it to slay their enemies. Armor was personalized, custom decorated with symbols and idols, and blessed by priests and oracles to carry the will of their war god. Their artifacts and accessories, the armory of their combat, were all animated. These are their war relics. It was filled with their magic and the gods, as alive as they were. And these humans clashed against one another, activating the highest state of the body, energy coursing through them and their relics. Spawned from these events were gods and people who became godlike. In sports, they will often say that the game is 90% mental. In truth, they will say this about any endeavor, any sort of performance, activity, or talent, that the biggest hurdle is the self, the fear, anxiety, doubt, shame, the belief that the opponents are better, more skilled, the crowd will judge you, laugh when you fall. It's 90% mental, but being in your head spells failure. You choke, unable to move, paralyzed. In combat, this is death. Seemingly, you are faced with a paradox. You cannot remain in your head, yet it is primarily mental. So what are you to do? What is mental activity? That is the first question. The mind, as with the whole body, is powered by biophotons. Indeed, no biological activity exists anywhere without biophotons. It is the life force, the mana, the chi. Everything runs on light. Where that light moves, power is found. Before the placebo was coined, this essence was magic. The biophotons shaping reality, for that is what reality conditions around, the flow of energy. In every culture, this magic is described differently, providing unique interpretations and applications. Nowadays, we have thermodynamics, a limp excuse of an explanation for magic, energy, and light. Biophotons are what animates objects, events, the items and accessories you carry with you and use. Not just for combat and warfare. That is an example of humans using this in the most extreme of scenarios, of life and death situations when all the cards have to be put on the table. The battlefield is where you find the best instances of magic. The placebo effect represents the most basic and reduced example of biophotons, the least capable, the worst of belief, and though it can be effective still, it is the being in your head equivalent of belief, more wishful thinking than magic. If biophotons power imagination, what is the body itself? The holobiont represents a description of the totality of an organism. For humans, this includes all the human cells, the microbial cells, and the extension of its influence on the environment, its electromagnetic field, its emissions of biophotons, sensory input, its spreading of DNA and microorganisms on its surroundings. Humans and all animals are ecological bandits, roving microbe fortresses, macrobe organborgs, a force of nature itself, worn by its cellular life and powered by light and magnetism. The holobiont is the whole of placebo and conditioning from all that interacts and impresses itself, and what extends outward from the body and mind. When it comes to war, the microbiome fights too, like mechs or a great ship full of its crew. Classic conditioning is the placebo in action, and a poor man's understanding of biophotons. Conditioning is how the biophotons react to previous experience, the default or trained reflex of a holobiont. When a talisman is made, or armor, a sword, or anything you animate, it becomes reflexive. The magic of the imagination literally places into an object spirit, energy, a deity. Maybe this example will make sense of it all. It is like when you paint flames on something and it goes faster. But not if you think it does, or if you believe that it will. It only works when you aren't in your head, but when the biophotons, the magic, is placed into the object. And this is why humans decorated their clothes and weapons and wore talismans. They were imbuing those bonuses into their things, the placebo, and reflectively obtaining those benefits, the conditioning. Again, those terms are just the silly laboratory version of what has been used and defined for all time, the conjuration of spirit and magic and alchemy. On the battlefield, what arose were the mixing of all these individuals, these holobionts dealing death to each other. The forces of imagination pit against one another. Strange gods grow and die from that imaginative biophoton clash. Where is it, do you think, the concepts used in fantasy are from? The war stories warriors have told, both ancient and modern, are never true, because they would never be believed. People used abilities, they summoned the rain, struck with lightning and thunder, rode like the wind, took on the heart of a lion, the fury of a god of war, destroyer spirits and flaming weapons, divine retribution and demonic influence. They put protector gods on their armor, thunder gods on their shield, dragons in their sword, just like painting flames on something to make it faster. Sometimes a computer only works with the right ritual next to it, or a garden growing best with statues in it. Totems, prayer, saints, hauntings, effigies, idols, ceremony. The imagination is the part of existing that animates through biophotons or magic into whatever you want. Children learn this when they play with toys. It's not belief that does this, not the placebo as it is described, but it is believing in the belief. In other words, not believing, just doing. The biophotons changing outside reality rather than stuck in the head. And us, big suits of elemental force harnessed by microorganisms, by the folk creatures, cryptids, mythic beasts, gods, storms, winds, monsoons, tsunamis, and wildfires, that mankind has always described and decorated the world and themselves with. We are the vehicle of the microbes in us, and microbes are the strange gods that move us. And this all is powered by the magic of imagination, the biophotons that life is based and runs on, that animates all of our relics.